Okay, I'll declare the meeting open and welcome everyone here today. Members of the public are advised that recommendations to Council contained within this agenda can be subject to alteration. Applicants and other interested parties should refrain from taking any action until such time as written advice is received confirming Council's decision with respect to any particular issue. Any statement or insinuation of approval regarding any planning or development application made during an ordinary council meeting is not to be taken as no continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and to their cultures, and to elders both past and present. Item 2, record of apologies and leave of absence. We have an apology from Councillor Jackson and Councillor Carboni. Item 3, applications for leave of absence. Nil. Item 4, reading from a book of learning and wisdom. Councillor Boylan.
As you think about your own path to daring leadership, remember Joseph Campbell's wisdom. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Own the fear, find the cave, and write a new ending for yourself, for the people you're meant to serve and support, and for your culture. Choose courage over comfort, choose whole hearts over armour, and choose the great adventure of being brave and afraid at the exact same time. Brene Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Boylan. Item 5, declarations of members and officers' personal interests. Councillor Beach.
It's printed on the screen, Mr. President.
Yep. Councillor Dickerson, happy with yours? That is printed.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Lovett. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Bromham.
Yes, Mr. President. I just want to add one, please. That's not 2A, is in there. 12.5.5, Cultural Communities Fund. I'm a member of the building committee at the water sports facility at Binninga, and therefore I have an impartiality interest. I'll stay in the chambers and vote on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Bromham. Councillor Burgoyne. Happy with you.
Go. See the last one. It's fine.
All good. No stuff. All happy. Item 6, response to previous questions taken on notice. Bill. Item 7, public question time. Any questions from the public at all? Bill. Item 8, petitions, deputations and presentations. First one from Mr. Paul Norman regarding item 12.2.4, Herbert Road traffic.
Good afternoon to the President, Councillors and staff of the Harvey Council. My name is Paul Norman, I live in Herbert Road and would like to thank you all for allowing me to speak to the petition and the report and recommendations from the Council officers. The issue of speed on Herbert Road has been before the Council through its employees since April and May 2017 in one form or fashion or another. So 4 years, culminating in the petition presented to the Council in November 2020. The petition was formed by speaking to every house that was available, 54 in total. Some people not home, which is a bit difficult. There's 61 houses, I think, in total. On a one-on-one basis, and asking them if they agree with its aims to sign against their address. 51 people signed up saying speed was a problem. That's 95%. The petition was put to the Council, requested that the petition that was put to the Council requested that the Harvey Shire 1 initiate a plan to slow the speed on Herbert Road, and 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate action. to slow the speed on Herbert Road. 2, initiate The officer's recommendation on page 27 of the report generally meets the objectives of the petition, using option 2, asphalt speed humps, and not those rubber things we've got up the end of the road at the moment, in attachment 1, and the overall plan in attachment 2, but with the inclusion of 2 speed humps proposed at the bend of the road to slow the traffic down. As an aside, I spoke to those people last night. Nightmare story of a car going around there on 2 wheels. Car going around there on 2 wheels last night. So, at the last briefing, the question was raised that could the council really justify slowing traffic below the posted speed limit? The answer is they have to purely on a safety grounds basis. If little or nothing is done, then we have people with separation of less than 1 metre interacting with traffic. The traffic doing all sorts of speeds. The first thing we confronted with any roadworks is if we go into any roadworks, we're confronted with a speed limit of 40 kilometres an hour. That's the first sign you see when you come within a bull's roar of them. So if workers are afforded a safer workplace, people walking on the footpath or travelling on gophers or children on bikes deserve no less, because that's what they've got. They've got no separation and cars doing over 40 kilometres an hour. So now we have a go-forward plan. The council's presented it. The next phase is a little harder but really important, that being initiating of action. The proposed 21-day period for seeking comment and feedback and a further report will ensure this matter stays before council for at least another 2 months. Not going to get solved in 5 minutes. This may be correct protocol, that there must be some interim trials as a show of intent that can be carried out, e.g. the smiley faces that have been spoken about in these chambers, $100 a day you can hire them for, even if you only hire them for a week, $500. Interaction with the local police. Ask Scott to go, get his boys to go down there. He's a bit short-handed at the moment, but is amenable to helping in the situation. He's not the solution, for sure. The question is, how will this be translated to the people who raised the petition in the hope of claiming back a safe and peaceful enjoyment of our street in a built-up area? What form will it take? And then the feedback to the people. Point 2 of the alternative motion requesting main roads to consider lowering the speed limit from current 60 to 50, making it consistent with other streets in the area, should also be included. It's unlikely given past experience they will change any speed limit unless the conditions of the road demand that. So unless we change the environment, no chance they're going to change the speed limit. And that's generally the comments when you go read through 85th percentile readings and such forth, which I've done, all the same thing. Cart before the horse. If we don't do it, they won't do anything either. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Is there any questions from councillors at all?
Sorry.
You're on. All good, thank you. Next, we have Rodney Gallardi on item 13, Kemerton Sale Yard proposal.
Okay. My name is Rodney Gallardi, and I live in Brunswick. We run we're beef farmers that operate in Brunswick and in the Boyna area. I also do a bit of commission buying for other people and stuff. So I also am a representative for the Southwest Sale Yard Action Group, which we formed in 2016, and we addressed the Harvey Shire in 2017 about some concerns and proposals we had at that time. That committee is made up of feedlotters, independent agents, the Rural Livestock Transporters Association and WA farmers. I'm sure we need no introduction to the concerns of the Bourne-up sale yards. It's been publicised quite a bit. It obviously needs replacing in the near future due to animal welfare and unsafe working conditions, including the hospitalisation of a trainee last Friday and another a few months ago. It's nothing short of antiquated. Currently the site is leased to Walser until 2022 and it is on state-owned land, which is within the Capel Shire. An original Deloitte feasibility, which was $100,000, into whether or not to replace a facility was inadequate, and the majority of farmers from the southwest, and we're talking from Serpentine to Augusta and out to Boyett Brook, had no knowledge of the survey and didn't attend the 2 uninformative meetings held at the Boyne Hall. It was an embarrassment to our local beef industry, though to still recognise the need for a new facility. In the past 3 years, the yard's put through approximately 100,000 head of cattle a year, which is equal to Mouchet and 20 to 30,000 more than Mount Barker in the Great Southern. The current government's first idea of privatisation was not a popular decision among industry, having major stock firms monopolising the industry, and as well as huge increase in fees due to investors needing to return on investment, as what we've seen in the eastern states, where an approximately anything up to 4 times the amount of yard fees. The fact is that when Midland was sold off and farmers in South West were promised a new facility, it didn't happen. The government's fees and charges over many decades warranted this, but it's not going to happen. It's now clear they retained the remaining sum from Midland, rumoured to be around $8 million for other projects. When the state government came to power, we were told there was no such funds and or will never be. It was raised that were any of the local shires interested in investing. It's been clear that Capel are interested but have not put their hand up for any funds. Location is the only thing producers will never agree on. My personal opinion has always been the Kemerton area, located between the South West Highway, Forest Highway and close to the Coalfields Highway. It's ideal. It's roughly halfway between Mouchet and Mount Barker, has an enormous buffer and is already owned by the state government, has access to both Bunbury and Fremantle ports, surrounded by the state's abattoirs, and is only a few kilometres from the new Bunbury bypass, which would have cattle coming from Busselton, Margaret River, on a freeway directly to the sale yards with ease. When Brunswick was operating, up until 2010, it was a major yard in the southwest, with producers bypassing Boyne for better prices and better buyer support. A large portion of cattle purchased in Boyne, approximately 85%, head north up either the Forest Highway or the Coalfields Highway. They go to feedlots, abattoirs, live export holding facilities or larger graziers in the Waruna and Pinjarra areas. So do we build coffee shops where we grow coffee beans? No, we don't. And maybe that's why Canning Vale is not at Milo. It's illogical to most except the state government, who maintain Kemerton is off limits due to being reserved for heavy industry. There are houses and farms surrounding it. The land is leased for cattle, and if it was unsafe for cattle yards, one would ask why there is people that work out there. Some of the state's most sought after cattle come from Alcoa, which are born and raised around refineries. Other sites include hefty price tags, as well as putting pressure on local and state governments to then provide access for heavy vehicle at approximately $1 million a kilometre. In summary, Kemerton is already owned, has buffer, road infrastructure, the place of the highways. It's in a shire that hosts the state's largest abattoir, surrounded by complementary industries to develop the project, close to the Harvey Agricultural College and a perfect training opportunity. Any extra truck movements, particularly Marriott Road, would be compensated by what is not now going to Goodchilds and what will be going to new ventures going forward. Plantagenet, which is the Mount Barker yards, and the Katanning yards, sheep yards, are self-sufficient. The industry and the community as a whole would benefit, and I think the Harvey Shire should at least investigate the idea of some form of investment management of a regional sale yard facility. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. Any questions? Councillor Bronwyn.
Yeah, thanks, Rodney. I just wanted to ask you a question because I'm not a cattle man. And has there been any move? You're saying you're part of an organisation that deals with the cattle in the southwest to form a cooperative so that you can put money into it as a cooperative and run it as a business?
There's many ideas floated like that in the past. None of them have come to fruition, really. I think every transaction of an animal has a levy attached to it that we pay to the government for different reasons, and I think they haven't fulfilled their obligations at any level. We all had council yards before; they were all taken from us, and it's obviously I'm pretty passionate about this because otherwise it wouldn't interest me. But yeah, look at all those things have come up before, but it's come down to a location, and it's really come down to the fact that this state government isn't really putting its hand up to do anything, and we've obviously seen it in other shires. Plantagenet and Albany, they actually built the Great Southern Regional Sale Yards together, and within a short period of time Plantagenet actually bought out the Albany Shire. So that employs 3 full-time people and about 6 or 7 casuals, and obviously all their maintenance and a lot of other things benefit the local community. So you know, I mean, there's the offshoot from it, whether it be manure farms, turf farms, water catchment. There's a lot of other things that could go with it, and obviously we're looking for ideas for that area out there, which has been there for a good 50, 60 years, sort of not doing much. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Councillor Burgoyne.
Congratulations on your recent wins
Thank you.
and your success there. Just wondering if you'd have a ballpark figure of what it would cost to build our facilities.
Ballpark. We had a quote for some yards not long ago that was in the sort of 8-9 million, but I honestly think it would be double that. I think it would be more like 15 million to build a facility of, you know, that is going to last for the next 40, 50, 60 years. And unfortunately, everything we're looking at the moment is for 5 years and 6 years or 12 months, you know, and there's band-aids on everything. I wouldn't think there'd be any change out of that if the government provided the land. That is to have state-of-the-art facilities, and having recently come back from Queensland and seeing a lot of councils reinvest in their state government and the federal government that all pour money into sale yards in the east. So it's just disappointing that in WA we're not getting that support. So yeah. Anything else? No?
Thanks, Rodney.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 9, announcements by the presiding member or CEO without discussion. Just like to highlight a couple of awards that a couple of Shire groups have had. The Binningup Country Club is a finalist in 2 categories in Clubs WA Awards for Excellence Program for 2021 for club development, small or medium, and for volunteer contribution by Rhonda and Michael Strange, and the winners will be announced on July 10. Also, another good news, the Leschenholt Cricket Club Secretary Adele Given is the WACA's Female Country Community Cricket Volunteer of the Year, and the Leschenholt Cricket Club, the Green Caps, have been awarded Cricket Australia's Community Cricket Club of the Year for 2021. So certainly a fantastic achievement to both Adele and to the Leschenholt Cricket Club. Great for Australind and all stakeholders, including the Shire of Harvey. So well done to all of those involved. Great news. Item 10, confirmation of minutes. Sorry, you didn't have anything? Should have asked. Sorry, Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just very quickly, if I could just clarify the ordinary minutes for April, just in relation to 12.5.2 on page 55, which just relates to Councillor Simpson foreshadowing an alternate motion. Now, I certainly did foreshadow an alternate motion. However, Councillor Lovett had moved and it was seconded by Councillor Dixon. I did not actually read my alternate motion to the councillors at that stage, and we just proceeded with the debate in relation to the officer's recommendation. And so, just for clarity, I don't have a problem with my motion at all, but I'm just wondering that it didn't appear, that didn't actually occur from my rereading, my looking back at the video evidence to clarify exactly, when I read this, what I had actually said and what actually occurred. So I'm just wondering if you wouldn't mind, just for clarity, if it could be reviewed. Thank you.
Yep, certainly we can remove the wording and just say that you foreshadowed an alternative motion. So we'll make that amendment to the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so confirmation of minutes of the ordinary council meeting Tuesday 27th of April 2021. Move Councillor Simpson, seconder Councillor Burgoyne. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 11, receipt of minutes and recommendations from committees. The Bushfire Advisory Committee held on Monday the 17th of May 2021. We have recommendation. There, Councillor Burgoyne moving. Second, Councillor Bromham. Question?
Yeah, I just got a question probably to Councillor Burgoyne because you was at the meeting. There's been a hold up till June in relation to positions. I just wondered if that was to do with the training. However, there's been a few training courses recently cancelled. Is that got something to do as well with it as well?
The fact of the matter is that those that were put forward to those, not all of those, but some of those that were put forward to those positions don't actually hold the training. And if you look at the back, there was going to be a upgrade of the policy, but
Yeah, I've read that.
it's a bit back front, because if we're going to upgrade the policy, those people need to have those qualifications. So if you look at those motions that were moved there will be a special meeting held
In June.
I thought it was the 14th, but I think it might have been moved to the 17th. Is that it's still the 14th? I got notification for the 17th. For the 14th, so that can be resolved prior to the end of the current one's tenure. So that will be sorted there, but that's where the problem lies, in the fact that some of those people put forward to those positions don't actually hold the current qualifications for that.
Is that the AIMS? The AIMS 2017, is it?
There's quite a few courses,
Oh, is it?
quite a few qualifications, not just 2017.
All right, great. Thank you. And I'll
Happy to second. Councillor Bromham. Right, there'll be any more discussion? Put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Alcoa Harvey Sustainability Fund Advisory Committee held on Wednesday the 12th of May 2021. And the official recommendation is there. Move Councillor Lovett, second Councillor Dickinson. Is there a question, Councillor Dickinson?
Just when we read the minutes, we have a list of the applicants and then we also have a list of the successful applicants, but we actually don't have any information regards to explain what the projects were. So in future, would we be able to have a bit of information provided so that we can have some information regarding the applicants so we know what actually the money is being used for, please?
Yep, that's noted.
Thank you.
Councillor Dickinson, yes. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, that's a similar question, but could we also have those applicants that weren't supported, and I'm looking at the Harvey Bowling Club West End toilets and the Harvey Local Good Action Group use space. When we meet with these people, they'll say, why didn't you support it? I wouldn't have an answer, except to talk to staff.
Councillor Beach, are you requesting information about why those projects were unsuccessful at this time, or you want that information passed on to you after this meeting.
Well, it depends on the nature of the information, being as we're in a public forum, so
I'll provide that information after.
thank you.
Councillor Dickinson.
Sorry, I also had another question. In the minutes, it also said that there may be a future small grant round, and so I was wondering if that was going to be the case. Will that funding come out of the existing funding, or will there be another funding arrangement and that will be a totally separate funding model and grant process?
It's still a discussion to have with Alcoa and through Tom Busher. At this stage we were talking about this year's program being undersubscribed in regards to the successful grants that were provided, so there is capacity there to potentially use some of these funds for a small grants round. In regards to whether any additional funding is forthcoming, that's for future discussions. Thank you.
Any other queries or questions? Put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12, Officers' Reports. Item 12.1, Chief Executive Officer. 12.1.1, Receiving Electronic Minutes and Agendas. Councillor Campbell.
I just want to say that I have an alternative motion.
Do you want to read it, Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, I think Freya's going to put it up on the screen.
Yep.
That Council receives agendas, minutes and other correspondence by electronic means commencing financial year 2021-2022 unless a councillor chooses to receive the said documents in a hard copy format. And 2, councillors' IT devices be reviewed prior to the financial year 22-23 budget when the current devices are due for renewal.
So you'll move that, Councillor Campbell?
Yes.
The alternative, is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. My alternate motion seeks to give councillors the choice of either receiving agendas, minutes and other documents via electronic means, which is currently accessible via the hub, and or received in a hard copy. Councillors should be provided the option that best suits their needs and circumstances, particularly given the volume of information we are now required to read. Everyone's circumstances and preferences are different, and what may be suitable for one councillor may not be suitable. Monitors to view documents at home, then that is a personal choice. The ratepayer should not be accommodating councillors' personal choices. I ask councillors to consider the replacement of the current IT iPads until the financial year 22-23, when the current devices are apparently up for renewal.
Councillor Adams, any seconder?
Oh, I very much agree with what Councillor Campbell said.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Any other speakers for? Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I believe that this is a sort of a soft introduction rather than a hard introduction that was previously proposed, and it sits a lot better with me that it can be eased in rather than an end date of what we do now and a fresh start. So I think this is a very good alternative. It gives some choice, whereas we lost that choice, whether you liked it or not, if that motion got passed. So, as I said, I see this as a nice soft introduction to moving to fully electronic in the fullness of time.
I'll speak against the motion. I think the cost savings, I'd probably be the most inept person on electronic devices going around, I think, in the room, but I think at some stage we probably have to move forward, and I think the cost of $40,000 is one that is substantial. And I think with a lot of the planning documents that are coming through are probably better off sent via the electronic means. And if I've had a problem getting it down, then I go to the CRC to print them at my cost. I get a telecommunications allowance, and I believe that's what substantially should cover what I need to do. So I'll be voting against the motion. Any other speakers for?
Against?
Oh, you want to against, Councillor Bromman?
Yeah, against.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I moved this particular motion initially to try and improve our efficiencies. And the reason I put the motion forward was threefold. One, to reduce the staff time in producing documentation for council. That has several implications. These implications are the cost of materials, paper, ink, etc., the cost of staff time in preparation and delivery, the cost of work held up by printer usage in staff time and efficiency from other items that need to go through council and or be processed, a reduction in the use of paper from an environmental perspective. Two, to ensure we have engaged councillors in the choice of the equipment used. This was to ensure that equipment chosen was compatible with the user's experience, knowledge and visual requirements for practical use. And three, finally, to ensure adequate training for users and the development of systems and methods of use are planned before the move away from a paper-based documentation. There may, however, be documentation that councillors may wish to receive as hard copy, such as budget documents, but this could be discussed. However, I find the use of computer programs aids me to find information quickly and highlight those issues of concern. This is achievable on some iPads, but the screen size does not allow the use of multiple documents effectively. To achieve this aim, two screens are needed. One for the agenda items and the second screen for the attachments. Not all iPads can achieve this. In fact, ones we can't, presently can't.
Is this not a point of order that, can I interrupt a second?
Yes.
It's just not a point of order because we're actually speaking against that motion.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not speaking against Councillor Campbell's motion there. We're speaking for the previous, the initial motion.
Well, it's other the case. Saying that the equipment at the moment doesn't meet the...
Still against.
Okay. So this allows the reader to interact with both documents simultaneously and highlight areas of interest. It also allows the user to change the font size to make it easier to read or zoom in on plans, something paper-based documentation cannot do. The costs in the report states $40,000 in year one to equip council. This would be zero in year two and $20,000 in year three and so on if replaced at this time. This is the worst case as computers have at this time a 3-year functional life, although this can be longer. Year one it was estimated to be $800 in savings from the present system. That is, if we bought new computers, we would save $800 on the paperwork that we already get. Year two would be a saving of $40,800, and after that expense of the first year. Over the 10-year period, this is a saving of $204,000 for those years with no expense, and a saving of $100,000 for election years. This results in an overall saving over a 10-year period of $304,000, enough to provide a substantial amount towards other needed infrastructure such as the football lights of Brunswick. The above is the worst case scenario, as often computers will have longer lives than the projected 2 years used. However, there are some administrative improvements that need to be considered, to make using computers practical for councillors. These changes may include providing attachments as separate PFDs. This makes searching documents more effective as you are only dealing with the one topic of one report. Okay. However, I do understand the need to adopt technology so all councillors are provided with alternate means until they are capable of using the technology through training. Thank you for listening to my argument.
Another speaker for the motion. Speaker against? Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that we've already had a soft entry to technology. We've had iPads now. I might need some help on this because we've had it for so long. We're on our second iPads. For some of us are on our second council-issued iPads. These have the ability to be able to share the screen to something the size of a television if you want to. So they are user-friendly. We've got the ability to have training in them. We've got the ability to print out if we need to. I also believe that if there was an elected member who simply could not use this technology, then there would be an allowance made on an ad hoc basis for that person. I really believe that we've got to bite the bullet on this and get moving and transfer across to digital. And I realise that that is difficult for some, but I think that we need to actually get moving on it. These are sufficient for most of our needs, and they can be shared to a larger device if an individual requires that. There's plug-in screens, laptops can be connected up to these, but I really believe that we have to get moving and not delay this.
Another speaker for, speaker against? Councillor Campbell, right of reply.
Thanks, Mr. President. Councillors are now required to read a range of complex and large-scale documents that in some instances are easier to manage in a hard copy rather than electronically. But this should be a personal choice of the councillor as to what they wish to receive. I'm not denying that we should be moving to better devices, but I'm saying that the councillor should be given the choice as to which manner they wish to receive the information in. And I do notice that staff all have printout of minutes and agendas and the like as well. So they obviously utilise the hard copies. And may I also suggest that an item such as this could probably be dealt with as in the concept forum and not in such a formal format as a council meeting, and we may have got a better outcome. But I just, as it is, request that councillors be given the option on which manner they receive the reports and documentation.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Okay, I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried 6-5. Okay, item 12.1.2, communications and social media policy. We have the officer recommendation on page 10. Councillor Dickinson moving. Councillor Lovett second. Is there likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 12.2, infrastructure services. 12.2.1, tender T012021, provisions of new playground Binningup foreshore. We have an officer recommendation on page 13. Councillor Bromham, Councillor Dickinson seconding. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 12.2.2, application to keep more than 2 dogs. We have an officer recommendation on page 15 as per confidential attachment. Councillor Simpson moving, Councillor Coleman second. Any discussion? Put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 12.2.3, 2021 to 2031 Local Park Renewal and Improvement Program. The officer recommendation on page 21. Councillor Bromham moving, Councillor Adams second. Might there be any discussion? Put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12.2.4, Herbert Road, Harvey, Traffic Management, further report. We have an officer recommendation on page 27 and 28. Councillor Burgoyne moving, Councillor Bromham second. Likely to be any discussion. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I'd like to speak against.
Councillor Burgoyne, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll give it a crack. I think I'm going to start losing my voice there. Mr. President, we received an initial report that said we should do nothing other than seek Main Roads assistance in dropping the speed limit, which ironically would make people speed even more just by doing that. That was then alternately motioned by Councillor Carboni, who I thought was going to be here and obviously is not, so I'll pick up that mantle. But the beauty of this report is that it actually does something. We still seek Main Roads assistance to drop the speed limit. We have come up with a plan. The engineering department has come up with a plan in regards to lowering the speed of those people who offend. Yes, it may be a bit of an inconvenience to some people, but at the end of the day, those people that live there are going to be consulted. So while it looks like it may be a little bit over the top, those people will be consulted in the next 21 days and a consensus will be found. At the end of the day, if the consensus is found that nobody...
Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Bromham, did you second her?
Yeah.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Look, I understand the frustration of the people that live on Herbert Road, and I am aware that 70 plus vehicles a day out of the total vehicles that travel that road are exceeding the speed limit. I don't deny that, and I concur with the speaker that addressed us and said that it becomes a problem. What I don't believe has been taken into account is the inconvenience now that's going to be caused to 85% of the law-abiding citizens that drive up and down that road daily. In another life, I do another volunteer role, as you probably all know, and I have used that road many times, leaving the Harvey Hospital on Priority 1 calls down to Bunbury, because the boom gates have been down. And I used it just a couple of weeks ago and then came to a screaming halt at the top end by Friar Road because of the speed humps. Our roads at best, the smooth ones, are not particularly comfortable in the back of an ambulance. Going over speed humps is even worse, and I'd like to get some of you in the back of an ambulance with a bag full of marbles under you and see how you go. It's those sorts of things that make me probably anti-speed humps anywhere, not just on Herbert Road. I believe the course of action should be that more pressure should be brought to bear on WA Police. After all, they are the people that enforce speed limits, not local councils by making them or trying to make them go slower. I believe more work should be done with the Main Roads Department, posting speed limits for that particular area, 50 kilometres an hour. I don't think that is unreasonable. The other issue is pushing vehicles from that road that use it to commute into town is creating rat runs through streets that may not be designed to carry a larger number of vehicles. And I think Mr. Loxton said that that could very well be a possibility. I don't believe this is a cost that local government should be bearing and should not have to carry. I really do support the officer's original recommendation, and that is to liaise with the WA Police and to liaise with Main Roads. but I think it should be done in a more rigorous manner than perhaps may have been done already. And thank you.
Other Councillor Adams, Speaker.
No, more of a question, if I may.
Yep.
Oh, and that is that, well, I have a bit of a concern, I guess, and would direct it at the Peter. How many other streets or roads in Harvey sort of fall into this same category, if you like? There must be others. I guess my concern is that we're going to be, this having been agreed to, we're going to be inundated with, you know, people coming forward and saying we want our road treated in a similar manner. The question is, you know, are there other streets that would perhaps need to be treated in a similar manner?
Through the Chair, you're correct, Councillor. It worries me that if we do go down this track, precedents could be set. It would be very difficult to justify not doing anything with other streets if this issue came up in other streets. And I have no doubt there are other roads where we have perhaps the same or different people who are not part of the 85th percentile that we keep referring to are speeding. So I still prefer to hang back on, look, it's a police matter. We don't have the legislation to be able to do anything about speeding vehicles. We provide a safe, infrastructure road to standard, and as far as road speeds and control of the speeds, it's a police matter.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there another speaker for the motion? Speaker against? Against?
Well, indeed,
Councillor
I will.
Certainly.
I will indeed. Having received that answer, I feel inclined to speak against it. In as much as, yes, we're going to set a precedent, and we're going to find ourselves trying to fend off all sorts of other requirements to do the same sort of thing. What was it? $20,000 times however many streets. I think we're setting ourselves up.
Another speaker for. No against? Councillor Burgoyne, right of reply?
I'm not sure that an example of an ambulance is probably a good one. Let's say face the same boat for a fire truck, but we say what's in front of us at face value. If that's what the road's like, then that's what we've got to negotiate. What does concern me is the fact there was, if I've got the numbers right, 55 out of 64 households were canvassed, and they all agreed that something had to be done. If you've got 55 out of 64 and the other 9 aren't at home, I reckon it's pretty compelling evidence that we need to do something, not just a token effort towards getting main roads to drop the speed limit. Yes, it is a policing matter. Police are stretched now, all over WA, let alone just Harvey. So having someone standing there with a speed gun day after day after day is not going to happen, no matter what you think. So, sorry, not sure what else I can say, but I'll leave it in your capable hands. I think that the right decision will be made.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? 3, 4. Motion is carried. 7-4. Okay, item 12.3, Sustainable Development. 12.3.1, Application for an existing use not listed reception centre. And we have 2 officer recommendations on page 36. Councillor Lovett moving. Councillor Bromham second. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried by absolute majority. 11 nil. Officers' recommendation 2 of 2. Moved Councillor Burgoyne. Second, Councillor Campbell. Likely any discussion? We'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12.3.2, application for a use not listed equine therapy service. We have 2 officer recommendations on page 41. Councillor Beach moving. Councillor Burgoyne second. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. 11-0, absolute majority. Officer recommendation 2 of 2. We have a mover, Councillor Bromham, second, Councillor Lovett. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried.
A wonderful idea, I think, this equine therapy. Yes.
Item 12.4, corporate services. We have the officer recommendation on page 44. Councillor Dickinson moving, Councillor Coleman second. Any queries, any questions, any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12.4.2, listing of accounts paid March 2021. Officer recommendation on page 46. Councillor Burgoyne moving, Councillor Coleman second. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12.4.3, schedule of fees and charges for 2021. Councillor Bromham.
Mr. President, I'd like to propose the amended item, please.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Dickinson. Okay. The amendment was provided in hard copy. Would anyone like that read out at all?
Yes,
or explained?
Indeed.
Mr. Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the previous meeting last Tuesday, it was discussed in relation to disparity between fees and charges for the Harvey Rec Centre, the Harvey Pool versus the Leicester Leisure Centre. Fees and charges were reviewed in relation to the Harvey Rec Centre and also the Harvey Pool, and some changes have been made as per table. The percentage increase in the number of those fees and charges goes up and down because we've tried to retain some rounding of figures. So some of the smaller figures you might have a 5 or a 6% increase, but it may be a 50 cent or a $1 increase. So a bit hard to see in the form that you've got. But the other thing it did highlight last week was the need for us to do a full review of the fees and charges. Now, we don't have sufficient time to complete that now, leading into the budget, but there's nothing stopping us doing that through the course of the new year and then re-advertise those fees and charges. And so, in providing with the request last week from Council to review those fees and charges, we've tried to do that to make things a little more in line as was discussed. I hope that answers that question.
Everyone clear? No? All good?
You don't know what to do, no.
So we'll move the officer's recommendation first, and then so you're still happy to move Councillor Bromham, Councillor Dickinson? So
We just need to move the original motion first and then move the amendment afterwards to incorporate the amendment into the motion to be a substantive motion. So, who moved the motion?
I moved
Councillor
Bromham?
Councillor Dickinson.
Yes.
And I'll move the original as well if you like.
And then we've got, and then we have Councillor Bromham and Dickinson who have moved the amendment, so if we could vote on the amendment. No, we'll move the amendment and then that becomes part of the motion. Vote on.
Okay. Right, vote on the amendment. So Councillor Bromham and Dickinson are happy on that. So put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion's carried 11-0. Absolute majority. Totally confused.
Right, it's just the amendment. Sorry, now
we're back to
the
the
substantive
substantive
motion,
motion.
which includes the changes that have been incorporated into that.
So you need to move up for that.
Yeah, Councillor Campbell.
We've already
Yeah.
moved it.
No, we've already moved it.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to vote on it now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Happy, John?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Put the motions. Anyone against the motion?
I'm against any increase in fees, yeah. Aye.
So motion's carried 10-1. Still. 2021 to 2026. And we have officer recommendation on page 51. Councillor Dickinson,
I need to leave the room because I've declared a
financial
proximity.
proximity.
So I need to move, leave the room. So you're pulling out,
Unless
are you pulling out the Mornington Road and then,
yep, that's probably if you're the only one
yeah,
with that.
yep. So I'll go out now, yes?
Well, which way? Wendy, we can do it and remove Mornington Road out, and then you can leave then, and we'll just vote on Mornington Road as a separate item. Is that- Okay, so recommendation will be that council receives a report on the Forward Capital Works Plan 2021 to 2026 as per attachment 1 with the exclusion of Mornington Road. Move Councillor Bromham, second Councillor Burgoyne. Likely to be any discussion? Put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Council will receive the report on Mornington Road and the Forward Capital.
Receives the report detailing the Mornington Road items in the Forward Capital Works Plan as per attachment 1.
Yep.
Items in the Forward Capital Works Plan as per attachment 1. Thanks.
Okay, so part 2, or the council receives the report detailing the Mornington Road items in the Forward Capital Works Plan as per attachment 1. Move Councillor Beach, second Councillor Lovett. Put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Which is not unusual. Okay, welcome back, Wendy. That was moved and seconded as per the recommendation. Okay, item at 12.5, community and lifestyle. Item number 12.5.1, youth engagement policy. Recommendation, move Councillor Burgoyne, second Councillor Campbell. Likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item number 12.5.2, Harvey Skate Park site selection. We have a officer recommendation on page 57. Councillor Adams.
Moving.
Moving. Seconder, Councillor Coleman. There likely to be any discussion. I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item number 12.5.3, Place-Based Strategy 2021 to 2026. Officer recommendation on page 60. Councillor Lovett moving, Councillor Froman second. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. Anyone against the motion? The motion is carried. Item 12.5.4, Community Budget Submissions 2021 to 2022. We've got an officer recommendation on page 63 and 64. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I've got an amendment to make for this one, if I may.
So if we move the officer's recommendation, Councillor Lovett moving, second, Councillor Coleman. All over to you, Councillor Lovett, for the amendment.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I was concerned when reading this list that there's an organisation that is receiving 3 separate lots of funding. I don't know that that is the best for our reputation as a shire. I also feel that some of these items could have been dealt with through alternate ways. And I would really like to recommend that we review the process that these submissions are dealt with. So the amendment is there that staff undertake a review of the budget submission process before we receive invite submissions in the next financial year, just so that we can clarify the process and have more transparency and be able to use the process better to benefit our organisations.
Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Bromley.
So that's your amendment, is it number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Just going to do it now. So is there any other? Councillor Burgoyne.
Just wondering if the mover would consider removing to prevent duplication from that.
So just full stop after 2023? Happy with that? Councillor Lovett? Okay, is there likely to be any discussion? Councillor Adams, a question?
I had a question.
Yep.
I did have a question. The first question was the seniors' Christmas dinner. I take it that's the Harvey Christmas dinner, is that?
Yes, that would be correct.
Do Australian seniors get a look in on this Christmas dinner bit? Is the question.
Yes. Oh. Yes, it is.
Pardon?
Yes, they do.
They do?
Yes.
And so they've been knocked back, have they?
Can I ask the Director to explain the funding model for the seniors' dinners across the shire?
I had a second question also on that. The men's shed, that's not men's shed. In all honesty, I think they're being a bit greedy, but $60,000 there. Has parking been taken into account in this shed extension? They're already stretched for parking. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. The first question being the Christmas dinners, they've all been rolled into the one application. And in regards to parking for the...
Excuse me, how do you mean rolled into one?
It's 2 dinners under the one application.
So one for Australian, one for Harvey?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you.
The answer to your second question, in regards to the Leshnut men's shed, parking is not included in the plans that have been submitted into the application.
Well, knowing how already the parking up there, they park all over the shop, and this extra extension, and when the and I do know a little bit about when the jet started, there was quite a bit about parking, and the Shire paid for it, but it was only for the first shed. Now they've parked here, there and everywhere. They've had one extension, this is the second extension, more people. Yeah, I'm just wondering what's... Because there was a business about the parking in the first place, I just wonder what the story is now as far as parking goes.
Well, at the moment we're just discussing the amendment, but I might add with the parking, I think that will probably fall into when the road development through Leschenol Rec Park is done. It will be taken into consideration at that. That is my understanding on the master plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other queries or questions on the amendment? So I'll put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, so that forms part of the substantive motion. Right, we're on a roll. Okay, is there likely to be any other discussion on the substantive motion? I'll put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, item number 12.5.5, Coastal Communities Fund 2021-2022. We have an officer recommendation on page 67. Councillor Burgoyne will move. Councillor Bromman second. Is there likely to be any discussion? I'll put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Item 13. Elected members' motions of which previous notice has been given. Councillor Adams.
My motion reads that Council agree to again allow householders, should they wish to do so, to trade one only tip pass for a scoop or trailer load of compost from the Stanley Road Waste Management Facility. The period for this initiative to be available being from Saturday the 12th of June to the close of business on Wednesday the 30th of June.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burgoyne.
So I may speak?
You may. Councillor
I may speak. I shall speak very softly. Now, I initially put the reason for this request that last year we offered a similar initiative which proved very popular with our community, albeit under the cloud of the virus. However, I believe we, as a council, can show to our householders a continued appreciation of their effort to ensure that the 3-bin system works well in the separation of household waste and avoidance of the need to contribute unnecessarily to landfill. So just put another way, thanks for doing the right thing. I note there's a bit of an increase to the officer comments from the agenda briefing, if I believe I am, right? Which the officer's comments say, whilst the potential cost to purchase the compost from Brumby Harbour Regional Council for the 19-day period are not large, connecting the council's appreciation to rewarding only the residents that can access the compost may not be considered as reasonable or fair. Now, I mean, let's be reasonable and fair here with the residents that do not have access to the four-pass system either. Quite a few people don't have the ability to use their passes, so they're going to feel disadvantaged. They feel disadvantaged all the time, so I don't think that access is a fair argument against this proposal. Although in this precious little world in which we live nowadays, it could hold sway. I request therefore, councillors, that you will agree with me that giving something back to our community isn't a bad idea. We'll give a positive slant to steering household waste away from landfill and show a friendly face to council's appreciation for keeping landfill to a minimum, as well as growing better quality veggies.
Councillor Burgoyne, seconder, against the motion. Motion is carried.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item, I suppose it's 13.2. There is an alternative motion.
Yes, Mr. President, if I may, I pity Councillor Cavani's not here to speak to his original motion, but I would have foreshadowed that the Shire of Harvey support in principle the development of a regional sale yard within the Shire of Harvey, works with both the state and federal governments, the livestock industry, Livestock Transport Association and other interested parties to progress this development.
Yeah. With seconder, Councillor Burgoyne. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, not much to add. I think Mr. Gallardi summed everything up rather well as to why the sale yard would be advantageous in Kemerton. When I was on the BWA committee many years ago, this buoying up sale yards was being talked about then, and how antiquated it was and how housing is starting to impact upon it in the Shire of Capel. And they worked many years with the state government trying to secure land, and my information at the moment is that that might not yet happen. Kemerton is ideal because it's already owned by the state government, and for the reasons Mr. Gallardi stated, transport access, buffer zones, and everything else is in there. I believe the officer's comments were probably quite accurate in as much as I don't think the Shire should own and run a sale yard, although I've since learned that they do it elsewhere. But perhaps we could promote partnerships between private enterprise, state government and even our own local government. But that would be something to consider down the past, and obviously if we were involved there would be a commercial leasing relationship. But I think private enterprise first and foremost should be the drivers of this with our advocacy, and we get to see members of Parliament quite regularly, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Kemerton could be chosen. If they don't believe it should go in Kemerton, well, perhaps they may have some more land somewhere else within the Shire that could do it. But Kemerton was identified several years ago now for a piggery, a very large piggery. It also had an abattoir in there. One of the reasons many years ago when Kemerton was not considered was you can't have food growth with chemicals. But as I just said, JDAP agreed for a very large piggery to go down there. There was an abattoir there, and as Mr. Gallardi said, there's cattle grazing down there now, so I can't see that being an argument. So I would like you, Council, really to support that we advocate on behalf of all the industry mentioned in the alternative motion to see how well we go in establishing a facility in Kemerton.
Councillor Burgoyne.
What he said, basically. I'm no expert at all on any of this, so what he said sounds perfect. I do recall last time I was on council that there was a push to have it out at Kemerton, pardon me, and since we've lost the one in Brunswick, I think it just makes perfect sense. So.
Is there a speaker against? Any other Councillor Boylan.
Yeah, I'll speak against that motion. I believe the original motion that Councillor Carbone put forward is the best option. I think we've been pursuing with the state government for quite a while for the sale yards to be moved to Kemerton, and I don't believe we've had any success with that in the area. I don't believe I'm wrong there, but and I think that we need to escalate this and give it a bit more of a push, and so that's why I'll be voting against this motion and for the original motion.
Any other speaker for? Speaker against?
Speaker for.
Councillor Bronwyn for?
Yeah, look, I will speak for the motion because I believe it's a great idea for the Shire to investigate the way forward for the industry. However, I don't believe that it's our job to own or operate such a facility. Therefore, I think we should engage with the industry, with state politicians and the state departments to see if we can organise for a yard to become viable in this location.
Councillor Dickinson.
I have a question. If council were to investigate and decide to build this facility, they would have the opportunity to lease it out to another party, wouldn't they?
Through Mr Chairman, yes, look, if the Shire was to be in a position to be the head manager, they could obligate that or sublease that management obligation to someone else. So yes, they could.
Any other speakers for? Speakers against?
I'd speak for. For me?
Yep.
Yeah. Look, I applaud, I think, Councillor Carbone's initiative in bringing this item to Council's notice. I don't necessarily, I don't agree with his whole proposal, but it's always needs somebody with a bit of guts to bring these items up. Having said that, I think the best alternative is to work with the state and federal governments to bring this issue to some sort of conclusion and progress and development. So yeah, good idea.
Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just a question, if I may. Just looking at the two alternative motions, I'm just wondering if Council or Council Beach could just provide us with a little bit more information about how Council Beach's alternative motion would actually look, sort of what steps would the Shire be taking to work with the various parties and the like to actually progress if we did indeed accept the alternative motion. Thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thanks for the question. We have an economic development officer, and I think the purpose of that person is to drive the economic development within the Shire. I don't quite know how it would start off, but obviously the motion we looked at, and I would assume sooner or later a small working party would be put together to start the investigation. That's how I see it unfolding. Staff may have a different view, I don't know, but you asked the question, that's the only answer I have right now.
I don't have to, but I think if I may respond in part is that there is representative, if I may stand corrected, Rodney, that Jeff Pearson's WA Farmers, Mark Talbot's Livestock Transport Association, Rodney's got links through lot feeders and a lot of other people within the beef industry, so I think there's enough credible people on the outside that probably could get the ball rolling and then put a proposal to. I think the biggest thing is does council support wholly pursuing it and trying to get an outcome that's a win-win, not only for the industry but for the Shire and everyone going forward. Is any other speakers for or against? Councillor Beach, right of reply.
Yeah, thank you. Look, this Shire over the years has been very successful in attracting businesses within its boundaries, and just a few at the top of my head, JLV in Harvey was one we brought down from Perth. The cheese factory in Wokelup was another one, and there's many examples, and it was council and council staff that initiated those sorts of conversations that eventually ended up with those economic developments. I don't see this being very much different than that. Look, if we can start the acorn, if you like, plant the acorn and develop partnerships with the people you mentioned, Mr. President, the people from the livestock industry, the stakeholders, state governments, and form partnerships. Now, it may very well be that we end up being a stakeholder financially. I don't know, but as Councillor Dickinson said, that there is opportunity for us, if we are involved, to lease it out. I think it should be driven by the stakeholders, but they're not going to get anywhere if you don't have the local government on side, particularly where it comes to Kemerton. Kemerton's been there since about 1986, 7 maybe, 8, and there's very little development. I know Albemarle's moved in there now, but that's 20 odd years or 30 odd years after the development. So look, accept the motion as is. It may be in the fullness of time that when partnerships are sorted out and stakeholders come to the table, that local government may be involved. I don't know, but let's not put our neck on the line just right now, but let's start the conversation. Let's keep this moving forward and advocate on behalf of the livestock industry.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? 1. Motion is carried. Can I also say that you mentioned stakeholders 4 times, Councillor Beach. I think that's a fine. And stakeholders come to the table. I think that's probably double. So if we can get the fines master on duty, please.
I've been watching Utopia.
Okay, item 14. Notice of motion for the following meeting. Neil? Item 15. Questioned by members of which due notice has been given. Neil? Reports of members are in the big tin can. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a couple of activities that I've attended that I think are worth noting. I attended the Anzac Day service at Brunswick and wish to acknowledge the efforts of the volunteers, the Brunswick community, and in particular Mrs. Judy Talbot, OAM, for organising this outstanding event. I also attended the Community Safety Crime Prevention Workshop, which was delivered by our Community Development team. And this was an outstanding Shire event, and it was attended by a number of service providers. It was a very innovative and informative workshop, so well done to the Community Development team for that. And also wish to acknowledge the launch of the Shire's Facebook site. The world didn't cave in, so well done staff on the launch of the Facebook. Thank you.
Councillor Bromman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to mention two things. One was the meeting of Lot 28, and I'd like to congratulate Councillor Campbell on calling my wife to become the Treasurer. I've never been able to do that. And I'd also like to, I went on Anzac Day to Binningup, and I've got to say what a fantastic service that the Binningup community put on there. It was really brilliant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've lodged mine into the system, but I wanted to raise here just what an amazing event the Access and Inclusion Summit was at the end of April. the amount of work that staff put into that event, the buy-in from the community, and the feedback afterwards has just been outstanding. So I just wanted to congratulate staff on their efforts for that.
Okay, item 17, seal register, is nil. Item 18, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of meeting. It's nil.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Sorry, Councillor Beach.
I may have one, depending on an answer that I get from you, if I could.
Yes or no answer, Councillor Beach, or a little bit more detail?
Can I explain what I need? At the concept forum, we discussed the fact that we should make a donation to the Lord Mayor's appeal for the Midwest Cyclone event, and I'm just wondering whether that needs to be formalised in the form of a motion.
Yes, Councillor Beach.
Good question.
Yes.
It does need formalising.
We do have the capacity within our budgets, but I would consider that if you formalised it in a motion, it would be more appropriate.
So what do we do now? Move a motion or ask to move a motion?
Asked to introduce an item of urgent business. Council will need to vote on that it is an item of urgent business, and then you can state your motion.
I'm happy to
Mr.
second
President,
that.
I would like to move a motion to introduce an item of urgent business.
Yeah. Happy to second that. Put the motion. Is anyone against the motion? Motion's carried. Councillor Beach.
Yes, Mr. President, I haven't written anything down, but the motion would be that this council donates a sum of $5,000 to the Midwest Cyclone event, Lord Mayor's appeal, if that's the right way around.
Seconded. Second, Councillor Adams. Okay. Likely to be any discussion needed with that? Okay, I'll put the motions. Anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Beach. Item 19, matters behind closed doors, is nil. Item 20, closure of the meeting. Just before we go, we have Olia, our new marketing and comms officer. Welcome to the Shire. So I hope you enjoy your stay. Chloe's very hard taskmaster, so don't let that worry you. The rest of us are all pretty easy. So welcome aboard. So thank you everyone for your attendance, and we'll close the meeting.